Question number 4, Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is addressed to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and asks, does he share the vision of the President of the United States, Barack Obama, who on 5 April stated his commitment to, quote, seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons, end quote, and does he also share the President's commitment to take concrete steps towards that goal?
The Honourable Prime Minister on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I reply yes. New Zealand warmly welcomed President Obama's recent leadership on the elimination of nuclear weapons, renewed engagement by the US in nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation is very welcome to New Zealand.
Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Prime Minister for that reply. Does he agree, then, with a statement of the New Zealand Prime Minister of 1985 that the United States carries the burden of, quote, knowing that the deterrent which defends them will also destroy them, and all the rest of us, if it is ever used, no nation should carry that burden?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, yes, broadly we do agree that America can, because of its position in the world, show leadership in this area. That's why we welcome the statements by President Obama, and we believe that's a step in the right direction. But we do not underestimate the size of the challenge that lies in front of the United States. We just hope that they are successful.
Joe Goodhue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What recent action has New Zealand taken following President Obama's statement on nuclear weapons?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, at the conclusion of today's meeting between the Minister of Foreign Affairs and US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, they signed an agreement for New Zealand's fourth contribution to the G8 Global Partnership against the spread of weapons of mass destruction. This is a practical way, Mr. Speaker, for New Zealand to assist international efforts to prevent the smuggling of nuclear material and therefore reduce the potential for nuclear weapons to end up in the wrong hands.
Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister, in light of his response to my earlier question and also New Zealand's vote in support of a UN resolution for a nuclear weapons convention in December 2008, will he confirm that our government will urge the United States to commence negotiations on a phased program for the complete elimination of nuclear weapons within a specified timeframe?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, firstly, I think on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I think it's fair to say that New Zealand has supported resolutions in the United Nations seeking negotiations on such a convention, but we've done that against the background that such negotiations are unlikely to get off the ground in the foreseeable future. Now, New Zealand's emphasis has been and remains on the practical steps that President Obama outlined in Prague in his speech. Yes, we will be encouraging them. As I said, it's a very positive step, and it's really one only almost American can take.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, has his government warmly welcomed the vision of President Barack Obama in moving forward measures to effectively deal with climate change? If so, if it wasn't President Obama that he was referring to, why did the Prime Minister say, and I quote in the House, "The leaders I have talked to, I can assure the member, are so focused on the recession that they're not particularly focused on climate change at the moment"? Which leaders was the Prime Minister referring to?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're a fairly long way from nuclear proliferation to climate change, but anyway, that said, no, one of the world leaders I was talking about there was not President Obama. I have not spoken to him. I do share, well, quite a number actually, if you like. I'm happy to give an answer. Yeah, quite a number. Yeah, Joe Biden. I don't have a photo of myself with Joe Biden. So
you've got to run up from behind him.
Yeah, never mind. That's right. Yeah. But the fundamental. Well, I don't know who was happier, Joe Biden seeing Phil Goff or Phil Goff seeing Joe Biden. But anyway, the fundamental point here is we do support. The fundamental point here is we do support a view that the world needs to take climate change seriously. New Zealand has its own prescription for that, and we'll be following it.
Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he agree?
Dr. Kennedy
Does he
Graham.
agree bringing the matter of nuclear weapons closer to home, does he agree with the statement of the New Zealand Prime Minister in 1986 that, quote, "New Zealand is a nuclear-free country. We reject any strategy for our defence which relies on nuclear weapons"?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Isn't it true that the Prime Minister was just making it up when he said that other world leaders weren't focused on climate change because they were focused on the recession? If not, why can't he name just one leader that said that to him?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, it would be inappropriate for me to relay conversation. Well, as a former Minister of Foreign Affairs, look, Mr. Speaker, I don't have to go out there and ankle tap world leaders and then email the photo to the Dominion Post to get profile. Okay, I've got my own profile. I don't.
Point of order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, there is a standing order, and you continue to fail to enforce it because they keep interjecting when I take a point of order. I ask you to bring the House to order, please.
Order. We will hear the point of order in silence.
Mr. Speaker, as you're aware, that question was very straightforward. Was there a world leader that he spoke to? Either there was one or there wasn't, but none of his answer is pertaining to that question.
Order.
Can he name one?
If the question had been straightforward and serious, I'm not sure all the barracking from the member's colleagues indicated, in fact, the seriousness of the question. I believe the response he was getting was absolutely in response to the interjections from his colleagues, and ministers are perfectly entitled to respond to interjections or answering questions. The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to go and relay conversations I have with other leaders, simply because I think that's inappropriate. But what I can say is, with quite a number of leaders I've met recently, what has come up first and has dominated nearly every conversation we've had has been the recession. And if the Leader of the Opposition doesn't think that leaders around the world are almost solely focused on the recession at the moment, as opposed to anything else, then that Leader of the Opposition is showing why he's so out of touch with what's happening in the world.
Dr. Kennedy Graham. Order. Order. Dr. Kennedy Graham is asking a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can the Prime Minister, in light of his response to my third question, which rejected nuclear deterrence and defence of New Zealand, and in light of the judgment of the World Court that the use of nuclear weapons would generally be contrary to international law, can he confirm that New Zealand supports the UN General Assembly Resolution 6375, calling for negotiations to commence for an international convention prohibiting the use of nuclear weapons under any circumstances?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, as I said in response to an earlier question to the member, yes, New Zealand has supported those resolutions in the United Nations, but it's important, as I said, to put them in the background or the backdrop of what is happening out there. And we think that the fastest way to achieve the kinds of results is not necessarily through a UN resolution, it's through the leadership that America is demonstrating in Prague this week.
Point of order, Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I seek leave to table 3 United Nations documents.
3 documents, if you could identify them, please.
The first is General Assembly Resolution 6349 of 2 December 2008, which sets out the resolution calling for a convention for the non-use of nuclear weapons, which New Zealand voted against.
The leavers sought to table that document. Is there any objection to that? Appears to be none.
Second is General Assembly Resolution 6349, which calls for a nuclear weapons convention, which New Zealand voted for.
The leavers sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is none.
And the third document is United Nations General Assembly document A62650 of 18 January 2008, which sets out the Model Nuclear Weapons Convention.
Leavers sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is none.